All right. Well, hey, look, how smart founders turn podcasts into demand engines. That's what you're about to learn today. So stay tuned, stay on focus here. Not vanity projects. Here with founder Gal Ko. How are you, my friend?
Good, good. How are you? It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, awesome. And look, it's always cool when we go international. We got Portugal, right, out here today on the Go4CEO channel, and super excited. I actually have an AI product now that I got, HeyGen, I think it's called, where I can turn everything into Portuguese too. So we'll see if it works.
Seriously.
So, yeah, yeah. It's well, you know how it is. AI is changing everything, and so many different attributes, but. I've also had people, and with your background of marketing, tell me too, hey, you don't want to do different languages because then you confuse the audience, but we'll see what happens. But hey, look, you're the special guest today. Thank you so much for coming on. Founder of Podstars and Bold PMM. Today we're going to talk about Podstars, ladies and gentlemen. So take us down that journey. We always like to start like, hey, where did it come from? Where did this idea, did you see a trend in the market? Where are you headed and why did you start Podstars?
Okay, so that's a good question. And in order to answer it correctly, I would take us back to 2008. No, I'm just kidding. So, yeah, I started my journey in marketing when I was 14. My parents were artists. My mom got sick, and I needed a way to help in family. So that was my first steps in marketing. But since then, I moved on to creating paid campaigns for big brands and working with high-tech industry, usually around Israel, because that's where I'm originally from.
Oh,
Moved to
okay.
Portugal. So yeah, Portuguese might be essential for me as well. But in terms of marketing, so I've been doing product marketing for 2 years now for my clients, and mostly what I feel like with them is, well, I'm talking about the B2B clients, yeah. I feel like the sales cycle is too long. There is too much effort to raise awareness, to do some thought leadership movements, and to get that wheel going. And also in terms of acquisition, I don't know if you know, but on LinkedIn, to get just a demo booked, it would cost you around $800. And I'm not talking
Hmm.
about a sales, it's just a demo. So, in terms of ways, I needed to figure out how to help my clients to reach their audience with the right message. And, the right person should be there and tell the right message as well. It's not just the head of engineering. It should be the founder, most probably, because they hold the story. They hold, the pains. They've been there and they're trying to solve it. They fell in love with the problem. So they need to be the one who speaks.
No, and I love it. You're taking an action where you saw something again, what most entrepreneurs did, where there's a gap, there's an issue, there's a problem, whatever you want to call it, and you're finding a solution in podcasting. Over the last 5 years, I think it's transformed big time. I started this podcast in the pandemic time, 2020, and certainly, yeah, more people have come in, but more strategic ways of doing that, right? Like specific content and then putting it out in the social media world and paid advertising, like you said, that's an amazing cost of $800 CAC, pre-CAC, right? Per
Yeah.
se, right? So that's a big one to handle, especially B2B. And I'm a commercial banker day to day, so it's interesting to hear that push of how you could attract that, quicker and kind of see it from a podcasting lens per se. So, all right. So look, you were already, putting your engine at 14 years old, your mind into entrepreneurship. You're trying to figure out ways to bring money into the family. And you started a first business, Bold PMM, right beforehand. So can you give us that transitional side? Because a lot of people run a business and then don't see verticals that they could integrate into what they're currently doing. They want to stay on one thing, but you saw an avenue, an opportunity building Bold PMM, and then now transition to Podstars.
So yeah, if I could take you to the long story, all of the businesses I've tried, and um, I mean, Seriously, I've actually went to China and lived there for 6 months just in order to do e-commerce better, because I
Oh
wanted to
wow.
communicate with my supplier in a better way. That's how like serious I am about creating businesses. And I've also done like PPCs and stuff like that. But eventually, algorithm, they change. But what doesn't change is people, and people speaking to people, conversations nowadays, they are the things that convert. Because I don't know if you're familiar with Google's 7-11 4 rule. Do you know that?
No. Tell us more.
So Google's 7-Eleven rule, they stated that in order to become a client, a paying customer, one has to actually go through 7 hours of engagement with your brand. And
Mm.
7 hours of engagement, it could be post, reading a blog, maybe reading a newsletter. Newsletter could be like 10 minutes if it's a long one, but usually people summarize it. So also videos, podcasts, all of those sort of ways that they can communicate with you, and it should be across 11 touch points. So, liking your post, visiting your webpage, scrolling down, seeing you in the feed. And it should also be the four stands for four locations and platforms. So that could be YouTube, your website, LinkedIn, emails, Spotify, whatever. And the thing is that most executives nowadays, and I'm talking about 83%, are actively listening to podcasts for around 5 hours a week. So also
Mm.
for you as a banker, I mean, your competitors already speak on podcast, and you have a podcast, and I bet that it serves you well in terms of recognition and authority. Like people can search and see how interesting you are and what sort of people you interview, and engage with you in a certain way, and get like you would get the advantage because you already accumulated several hours with people before meeting them.
I love it. Yeah, no, it's been a game changer. I transitioned back from personal finance in 2019. In 2020, I got into commercial banking. And one of the added benefits of doing that was that, my heart was in the right place. I kind of transitioned into an area of working with strictly business owners. But then the podcast, ironically, right, became a differentiator in 2020. And then 2, 3, 4 years later, I just went to a seminar earlier this week. And it's funny, people come up to me like, hey, wait, aren't you the guy on that? Wait, go for, and then I just wrote a book, and that's added more credibility, more, stature. So, I love it. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Everything has ebbs and flows in business, right? And certain markets come back, certain things, stretch forward, all that type of stuff. So it's been interesting to hear, what it is and what it takes to kind of set authority. So, all right. So I mean, podcasting has blown up. There's many, many avenues, many different genres of podcasting. What was your thought when you took Bold PMM and then transitioned to Podstars? What has been kind of that? Is it been the avatar of executives? Are you targeting CEOs and C suites to be able to be more vocal and out there on Podstar on podcasts?
So yeah, absolutely. I really encourage anyone that hold the story, and because in order to speak on podcast, um, you don't have to have like to be 30 under 30 for Forbes, like Forbes 30 under 30 or a perfect company, and you don't have to have 50K followers. All you have to have is a story, a certain lesson, transformation to share. Um, Maybe, I don't know, if you have a message to people, because, for example, my message is always you're one podcast away from your next big opportunity. For example, it could be a job, it could be whatever it is that you want. But if you'll go and speak on people's podcasts, it could only serve you. And as we dive deep, you'll see how to repurpose that and do all that. But yeah.
So look, you've democratized, right, this opportunity, and there's competitors out there, right? I had the CEO of Interview Valet I actually had interviewed probably 20 or 30 of his clients of Interview Valet until the CEO himself asked to be on the podcast. So I was pretty excited. I was like, wow, these guys have been booking for on my podcast, right? So now, I have you on. What are some of those areas, since you know that there's competition out there? How have you differentiated? Has it been, giving the right testimonials? Are you pretty centric? I saw your website. It's pretty nice. It's a nice flow. What has kind of made you a little bit different from a podcasting booking or the story behind that?
So this is a funny story because, well, I love to read. And I think that, podcasts are good and people summarize maybe 10 or 5 years of their life to a short conversation, but usually it's around the questionnaire, like the host, or maybe around a specific subject rather than he is just handing you every piece of knowledge that he has with a spoon. That's what happens on books. So usually what I do, I get my Kindle, but this time actually I got a hard copy here of Alex Hormozzi's $100 million money models. And the thing is that when I got this book, I was in a certain point, I had a bottleneck, and I actually do it down here. I had, in order to make, to hit the numbers I wanted, and the numbers I wanted are like 1.5 million ARR. It's pretty modest. And now I operate in a good margins, I would say. And in order to hit 1.5 million, I would have to have around 273 clients a year. And it was, oh my God, I need to just change everything. So I just got the book. 2 days later, I read the first chapter and I was like, okay, I'm closing it down. I'm not reading anymore without implementation. And that's just what I did. So I restructured my offer. I used to sell podcasts in like a bulk. So you would just buy 5 podcasts out of me. And now I've redesigned it as a service. So it's like a done for you service that you can buy the done for you solution, 3 podcasts a month and just like 40 a year, because I have bonuses for loyalty. And just like, if you stick to it, you'll get all these gifts. I'm pretty generous. I'm trying to act generous. And the other thing is the DIY. So I recreated all the knowledge that I know and packaged it under a challenge. And it is a win your money back challenge. So basically, I'm giving it away for free, because if you go on 3 podcasts in 30 days, you just win your money back and you just say, thank you, Gal. So it's like a risk free, but you obviously, if you don't want it, you can just buy the course. But eventually, the other thing is I've created a community that is driving the content, because we always need content and I cannot rely on myself. Obviously, I do now because I go out and speak about it, but the content that is generated through the community is just like, it left me speechless, because already I launched it in December, and I didn't know how many people are going to join in. And I was like, okay, I'm hoping to the best. I just launched. I just spread it across some WhatsApp groups. I was on LinkedIn also, and just like communities and stuff. It's like a borrowed audience move. This is podcasting also. It's a borrowed audience move. So you go there, you share, and you tell people, look, if you want to join in. There is a community. I invited over 600 podcasts that I worked with. Some of them refused, some of them joined, but they're all actively searching for guests. So it's like a community where you have tech founders and podcasters. But eventually also other founders and other VCs have actually joined in. So it's like and marketing managers from actually companies like Google, TikTok, Meta, Microsoft. It was mind-blowing. So it's past 2 months now, and we're over 300 people, and we already created 30 episodes just from being in the community. So it's like, this is my differentiator. I'm just giving it away. The way I do it is by sharing, because I think that value first, this is the way to do stuff now. You have to have some sort of community as well, because it will also serve you as like a fuel. And yeah.
Nice, nice. So, look, you've put together this community, right? You've attracted people that you didn't even know that you were going to have come into it. So the business itself of Podstars, you've kind of redeveloped the go-to-market strategy, right? And you read the book, right? $100 million models. So you were a part of the world record Guinness World of Records, right? I think he sold
Yeah.
like 9 million or 12 million something dollars of the books. I've got offers and leads as well. So I definitely love Alex and what he's done in the business community. So with this challenge, okay, because just to give someone an example of a service, right, a DIY or do it for you type thing,
Yeah.
you're attracting these people into this ecosystem and community. They're going through the challenge of being a three podcast. Do they pay you up front and then they get reimbursed? And then what is the lifetime value then of that person? And obviously, it's only been about a month and a half or two that you've changed your strategy. But what's your expectation? They get their money back and then they still retain the ARR or MRR service?
So I would say that, the diversification of the ways that you can do business with me, it's sort of the way for me to filter out people that are not necessarily going to be a good clients of mine, and maybe to warm them up, so it will serve me in the future. So obviously, most of the people in the community, they now know who I am, and they see my wins. They see how people get to speak on podcasts, and it's like it's building the authority either way. The people that are coming and buying the courses, I had only two, by the way. But eventually, I'm not like a hard sell person. So inside the community, I'm not like doing a promotional events or stuff like that. It's hard for me because I'm more of a marketing person. It's like I want you to see the value in it and just like choose it yourself. I made
Mm.
it like extremely easy. So yeah, they just pay and they get reimbursement once they hit 3 podcast recordings under a month. And I had people join in a week. They did 4 podcasting bookings. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, and it's just bookings. You have to show up in 3 podcasts in under a month. So that's just like the challenging part. But anyway, I had hosts searching for guests, and it's easy for the community members that are active.
Okay, so they're going to this community, and I'm assuming you're using some sort of platform, or did you do a Discord or something like that? I guess give us some of the insights because then what happens is you've got these podcasters in the community. Are they setting it up, and how do you control that, or are they just saying, "Hey, I was on Go4CEO, I was on Joe Rogan, whatever, these three podcasts," and then is that the entry point? They have to enter your community with the $500, and if they do three in a month, they get their reimbursement back.
No,
How's it work?
the community is totally free.
Okay.
At the beginning, I was like, yeah, let's charge maybe $30 a month. It seems legit, just to filter out people that are not necessarily willing to put money on it. But I've decided to keep it open just because of the goal to hit 10,000 episodes.
Mm.
So yeah, that's just like the goal. So I need to find another way to monetize it better. But I think that eventually I'm going to run paid ads for the challenge. And this is going to be like, some sort of like cash making engine, because it's a win your money offer. And eventually not anyone is going to who's going to participate it has the willingness to put the efforts where they put the money. So yeah, but eventually, look, I think that just being the guy who helps people to get on podcasts, on global podcasts, that's eventually what I'm aiming to be like, be branded as. And also, like, this is actually the question that attracts clients to come to me. That, do you want to speak on global podcasts? And if the answer is yes, I can help you. Either
All
way,
right.
free, half price, or just like done for you service where I also edit and repurpose.
Okay.
But in
So
terms of platform,
yeah.
I went on full Hormozy and I chose School.
School. Oh,
So his
okay.
platform,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you got it for $9 a month, right?
No, I got the expensive one, the $100 because I used my like own name there
Oh,
and
okay,
stuff. Yeah.
okay. I get it. I get it. Yeah, I took the $9 offer, and it's not been something that I've enacted yet. Sometimes it's crazy. You can have so many different directions you can go, but it's really cool that you've put this community together, especially using a branded tool like that with school and upgraded your actual usage of it. So, all right. So, but I guess people and I'm wondering, right? Let's go back to then Bold PMM because
Mm,
there's got to be something there that obviously you're creating this momentum for Podstars. You're creating this brand for Podstars, but you got to eat, you got to make money somehow. So Bold
yeah.
PMM, I'm assuming, is kind of where your day to day is. And can you tell us a little bit about that business and what it took to build that to a concentration level that you have now?
Okay, so Bold PMM was born under frustration because I
Mm,
was 6 months of it was 6 months of unemployment. I tried to find a job. I applied for almost 300 places. I have like a
wow.
snapshot of it somewhere, but almost 300 places. I got to the final, final level, final boss of these interview sessions, like around 4 times. So it's like, it's in the tech industry, the levels are like very high. Seriously, there are like 7 levels to just like getting to know the boss. So
Wow.
yeah. And eventually what happened is I had an idea to turn the table and decided to, you know what? I know how to bring clients. I've done it in the past. I was a freelancer in the past, but I need a way to make it at a certain scale. And I had this, I watched this video of Starter Story. I don't know if you know Starter Story. It's a good channel on YouTube of a
Mm,
man explaining like hosting people that hit a certain budget goal, I would say, like a business goal. And he gathered all the tech stack and all their methods and playbooks and stuff like that. And he sells a playbook. So I've seen his video asking a designer that is doing over 3 million a year. And he's just one designer. How do you do that? And this guy said straightly, and I've never heard this term, he said productized service. Now, I didn't know back then what's a productized service, but it was Friday and I was amped to find out. So I scrolled down, I've researched it, and I went to sleep. And on Saturday morning, 6:30, I woke up from sirens and there was missiles attack at where we lived. And it
mm,
was the beginning of the war. And my wife and I knew that we need to move an apartment in 2 weeks and we didn't have nothing ready. We actually dog seated a friend of ours. So we were in our apartment and just like it hit us. It's like a rug pull. And it
mm.
was 6:30 and I knew that something bad is about to happen. We need to act fast and we need to do something about it. So we had an apartment in Portugal. So we decided to just put everything in boxes, shove it down to my wife's parents' apartment, and just like go to Portugal. Just stay safe, stay focused because I didn't have any job. She didn't have any job either, and we had an apartment. So it's like, okay, let's go. Let's come back stronger. And we did it, and we spent like 2 months in Portugal, where I developed a website. I've developed an offer and a productized service. The offer itself, it is something structural. I just took all the roles and responsibilities I had as a product marketing manager back then. And restructured it as a subscription thing where you can have one request at a time of whatever it is that I've listed. Okay, it could be messaging for your pitch deck. It could be creating your pitch deck, for example. It could be building a website. It could be creating battle cards if you are now against a competitor and you're trying to win a customer. It could be what sort of in-app messaging should we do? What's our messaging strategy? So it's mainly those things rather than creating a campaign or something like that. Because I didn't want to creating campaigns or actually logging into HubSpot. That is something that I don't do, for example, or to CRMs. Usually, I'm sitting right between the product, the sales, and the marketing. And I need to
Mm.
communicate with them and make them see the values rather than the features. And when we go out with messaging, it should be from the right person to the right audience and through the right channel. So it's like had to be aligned in a certain way to move people.
So Bold PMM comes from a time of need, right? A time of a bit of desperation with the war happening and these things happening. You luckily had a place to head to, some people to rely on with your stuff, and then this idea comes up, right? To build Bold PMM based on the things that you've done. So it's an interesting story because I think a lot of people really sometimes get too stuck in their ways, right? And they think, oh, this is the only way to do it. And I think with AI, with decisions that you make, I talk in my book about assessing where you're at. You took a real time action of assessing and said, hey, danger's coming. Let me assess where I'm at. Let me take inventory. That's assessment. And then you aligned with your wife's parents, aligned with the people in Portugal that were a little bit safer in your apartment. And then you took accountability and looked in the mirror and said, hey, okay, here's what I could do. Here's what I know. Here's what I can bring to the marketplace. Here's the value that I bring. And all of a sudden, you created a bold company called Bold PMM. And that's led you to also Podstars. So what a cool journey, right? And everything, happens in some ways for a reason, they say, right? But you also took action and made things happen, which I think is a big component too in life, where if you stay back a little bit too long and you don't take the personal action, because you know what I liked you said earlier, and I'll kind of segue a little bit here, but on $100 money models, you said you read the first chapter, stopped, and implemented, which is a big deal. A lot of things. So awesome, awesome. All right, so let's take a look at are both companies right now? Do you hire independent contractors? Do you have employees, or is it more of a kind of you're the main head and figurehead of the companies?
So during the time managing Bold PMM, I had some big clients coming to me, and it was crazy because I wasn't prepared for it. But you need to act, as you said. So I acted, and for me, it was pretty easy because I already knew some talent people, and I went to meetups and knew the right people also from university, people that also like doing product marketing. So it was easy for me to just go and take the subscription and just like hire a freelance and just tell him, okay, look, we got a request. Each request is gonna be $200 for you. So to break the subscription down to a certain level that you can operate and win, rather than hire in-house and having a headcount now and stuff like that. So this what happened with Bold PMM, but nowadays with Podstar, I have hired a very talented young woman that is doing like the community management for me, and she's
Mm.
doing also emails for me because emails it's a big part of this. Automations and emails and communication with podcasters and with clients because you have to have a certain like availability. So I knew that I needed to delegate this part of the system for her in order to me,
And so here's a good. I mean, here's something interesting that we could talk about. That particular. I don't know if you consider her like a VA or a PA, right? Is it local or is it someone that's abroad, outside of Portugal that you hired now for that particular position?
So she's also here in Portugal, but
Mm-hmm.
she's also Israeli that moved away,
Oh, okay.
and she needed a job.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So, look again. The theme I'm getting is that you're very resourceful when the resources are tight, right? You've become someone that understands how to get something done without necessarily all the money backing you up or many people available to you, but you get very resourceful and get things done. So that's a big deal, and that's a learning step. Go for Sioux community. Sometimes these interviews, it's not so much about, hey, here's the operations, here's the sales, here's the marketing, here's the leadership, here's the, tech stack and all the things. Sometimes it's just getting back to, hey, from going from an employee mindset to a solopreneur and then creating a business out of it once you start, building the momentum, the systems, the processes and stuff like that. So really cool stuff. So, all right. As you're building this Podstar side of things, you've said, there's a large community growing and brewing. You're using school as one of the platform or the platform to build that, and it could be a freemium to paid type of service that'll come about. What do you see in the next 6 to 12 months as kind of the vision that you have for Podstars?
Mm. So my vision for Podstar, it is funny because I think that my vision for Podstar is essentially the derivative from my vision to myself. Um, because I see it as a way that if I invest in myself and like start doing YouTube, start uploading consistently, now repurposing all the podcasts that I've going to, and build like the personal brand that attracts people to Podstar, that would be essentially the thing that will be most beneficial for me because I see it as a long game rather than a short one. So even if it's like 6 to 12 months, obviously I can say I'm monetizing things and just like, having challenges booked and more clients, essentially maybe hitting 15 clients a month, and yeah, that could be amazing. And these are the sort of things that I work for. But eventually, you can't rush process and you can't rush things. And I think that Rome wasn't built in a day. This is how we say. Um, and yeah, I'm all about building some sort of a movement rather than just a business.
Interesting. Well, and look, I mean, I think that's where the component of frustration and patience come together, right? You're, obviously frustrated sometimes because you're like, hey, I need to pay the bills. I've got things to do. This is a time in my life. Maybe we're starting a family, whatever. These types of thoughts go into your brain. And if you're not making enough money in this world, things don't happen, right? Money's a conduit to choices, right? The more money you make, the more choices you have. But it's a slow process to be able to build, like you said, this community, this brand, this reputation. And then all of a sudden, it's like it skyrockets, right? And builds something for you, which is awesome. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about before we end the podcast here, um, leadership, right? What are some of the things that you've been able to think about and do and implement that kind of either self leadership, meaning looking in the mirror and having to give yourself a daily task? What are the ways that you've kept yourself disciplined and then also now bringing on people to work with you? And how have you worked with that scenario?
I think leadership. So leadership for me, being obligated to go to the army. I didn't just go to the
Mm.
army. I volunteered to be a Navy diver, and I was in the special forces of the Navy. So being around people that chose to go and do the suffering part of the training, the basic training, all of those kind of things, moments, like days and nights under the sea, all of those kind of things. I see leadership as someone who knows how to communicate through challenges and be on the right direction all the time. And I think that in terms of the people that worked with me, also the people that I hired, usually I search for autonomous rather than I search for people that they know that they have a North Star. Okay. They have a North Star that they can navigate with. And eventually, if they're going to hit it, amazing. If they're not, that's okay. We're going to process it. We're going to see how can we do it better in the long run or the next time. But I'm not angry, and it's like I like people who dare, and I like people that don't ask for permission. They ask for forgiveness rather than being shy and not handy and not productive. Just like so yeah, I see that. I think that leadership for me is giving freedom for the people that you work with.
Okay. And you brought up an interesting point, right? A lot of people are worried because they want to control everything. And from an entrepreneur standpoint, sometimes when you get into business for yourself, you are the best person to do that thing, right? That process, that service, that dentist, that, marketer. Oh, you believe you're the best one, right? And you are probably, right? You found a problem you're solving. But like you said, if you recruit to autonomy and then just inspect what you expect, then you actually have someone that's self-reliant and you start to build that culture of people that don't always need to call you or text you or Slack you or whatever it is to get permission to do something, right? Because that bogs down the company. But it's interesting that you put it that way. I appreciate they said that. So, look, a lot of times, or every time, we end our podcast with CEO. So, client experience and giving us kind of that value proposition for Podstars and Bold PMM, if you want to include that. What does that look like, right? 60 seconds of, all right, hey, when someone comes into this ecosystem, this group right now, what are they expecting and how can they get through that process to be a client experience?
Mm. Okay. So in terms of client experience, I've booked hundreds of podcasts and I've sent over 10,000 emails in order to book my clients and generated over 100 episodes for my clients. And to do so, I had to go through a certain path. Now, if you want to learn the path yourself and you want to do it yourself, also learning how to repurpose each episode consistently and turn each episode to some sort of like a content mechanism that supports also sales, creating blogs, newsletters, all of these shenanigans that we consistently need in business. So you can just go and join our Podstar school and buy the challenge or just buy the course if you don't have the time to do it under a month. But eventually I packaged everything there. So if you just go to school.com/Podstar, you'll just see it in front of you. But if you don't have the time and you want someone to put you on the top tier of the podcast, and I'm talking about the first 10%, and get to choose which podcast do you want to be on with actually transparency, knowing which podcast delivers what. For example, newsletters for 100,000 people, or maybe promoting this on local news. Those are the sort of things that also my clients had in the past. And some shows obviously cost money, but we deliver all of it, all the information that you need to get to choose the right podcast. And this is the done for you service. So you get to choose between three. No, you get to choose three between 10 to 15, depending on the plans. So it's like each month we deliver 10 podcasts that showed interest in you, and you get to choose from them. And we also repurpose each episode to 3 videos so you can boost your socials. So this is the done for you service.
Interesting. Well, and that client journey, right, is going to be refined and perfected and get
Mm-hmm.
better all the time. But really, to create a community to go into, because there's some competition out there for you, right? Um, and I think this space has become something of definitely a do it for you service, because many of us, right, if you own a business or if you're in some sort of industry that would be great for you to build a authority in. It's hard for you to also then find all the podcasts, email them, and do all that type of stuff. So it's an interesting. I love the client experience or the experience. Yeah. Um, the second one is E for engagement. So, Gal, how would you describe people engaging with you? Are you a person that likes to go out to dinner and break bread with someone? Are you an event? Do you like to go to sporting events? How do you like to spend time with the people that were to engage with you, or even your school community? Do you do webinars with them to bring them into your life? That type of thing. So E is for engagement. Tell us a little bit about that, maybe 30, 60 seconds.
So engaging. Whew. Um, I would say that day to day, obviously, I engage with my wife and my sister. She lives here, and just like we like to go out and actually skate and surf. And those sort of engagement bring me joy. But also, what bring me joy is having a one-on-one talk with a person that I've never met, learning about his pains and like helping him. I just had multiple calls this week. Just people just hearing about what I do, scheduling a call, and voila, another person got some value from maybe a tip around productizing your service, maybe something about podcasting. It could be a marketing, whatever it is, but engaging usually one-on-one. This is what I love. And it's a globalized world nowadays. So yeah.
Mm. No, and we didn't get a chance to go too much into it, but I'd love to even see because I'm a component. And I'm the United States, and you came from Israel, and I love that. In my opinion, I think at least the men, the boys that become men, should serve. It is something that I regret I didn't. I was an only child. My mom convinced me not to. I wanted to be in the armed forces, at least for the required time that you start. So I love that component about Israel and how they put that mindset in you. And obviously, we could probably go deep in that, but it's interesting how it's developed you, right? And how you said, hey, you saw danger and you saw some things, so then you made a move, and you've been able to recreate yourself per se. So it's pretty awesome. All right, so last one is operational excellence. When you think about the tools that are coming out nowadays, every day there's a new type of Claude 3.0 or 4.0 or ChatGPT 5.0, these types of things. Also, tools that you're using. School is a big, big deal. If you don't know about it, it's actually an interesting component to the way that you could do business. So, what are things that you're using at Podstars and Bold PMM to keep yourself operationally excellent?
Okay, so I actually hired an operation officer for several days just to get the hand of operational excellence. So she taught me how to do automate or delegate charts. And it's like you go to if this, then that. So it's like if a client comes from the website, then he sees the landing page, or if he subscribes, what now? Then this should be sent, or maybe this should be uploaded to the CRM and stuff like that. So I would say that just structuring all the operations in the right way, very schematically, you can do it with pen and paper. Yeah, you don't have to be a genius about it and using the right tools. I did also in Canva because my wife, she's a YouTuber and she's like doing a Canva. She's a Canvasador, and yeah. So Canva is like the home technology here. But also we have obviously GPT that is operating 24/7. Seriously, they're in all the flow, getting the feedback from clients and even tally forms. This is a nice one. It's a free one. It just like forms straight to the Notion, and Notion obviously it's also a nice tool to have. It actually, this is where I store all the operation. I have
Mm,
over 600 data entries of podcasts that I worked with there, stored there, and it's like you can search there and you can have all the data there. It's free. So usually I keep things very lean in terms of working with clients at Bold PMM, for example. I use Trello because you can
mhm.
just use it free and give access to all the team. So if someone has a request, you can just drop it in, drag it in, and that's what you're supposed to work on today. Trello, yeah, but these days there are so many tools,
Yeah.
and it is
Well,
exciting. Yeah.
no, and it's added a lot of efficiency, right? But it's also given us time back to then go to lunch with someone, like you said, have some
Mm,
fun with them, right? I talk about in my book the 5 F's, which I borrowed from someone else. I read it before, but it's faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun, right? And these
mm.
5 F's in your life could be in business or personal, and it really kind of has been neat to see. Now, I didn't know about Notion. I'm going to research it after this podcast and get to see like some of these things because I'm looking to bring in some interns and help kind of facilitate some other areas of the Go4CEO brand. So awesome, my friend. Well, Gal, what would be the best way somebody sees this and they're like, I'd like to go to this school community or I'd like to find them on LinkedIn. What are the best ways to get a hold of you and your team so that they can be a part of your community and what you're doing?
So if someone wants to join the community, it is totally free. It is under school, skool.com/Podstar. So it's skool.com/Podstar. Yeah. And if you want, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very friendly. Yeah. And I would like to help anyone. So yeah.
Awesome, brother. Well, hey, Go for Show community. By the way, the book came out in October, the 4A formula, untangle any challenge and think like a CEO, think like an entrepreneur, think, right? Start to have a process, a framework, assess where you're at, aligned with the right people and the right standards that you have. Then accountability and take action, because without action, you can learn a ton of things you learned from Gal Coat today. He picked up the $100 million money models, and in the first chapter after he started implementing right away. So it's a great attribute to have that take forward action moment. So and thank you so much, Galco, for coming on the Go channel and be a part of our community as well. We look forward to having this out in the internet and sharing great stories with what you just shared.
Thank you so much, John. It was amazing to be here.